Let's bring in Dr. Dyan Hes. She's the founder of Gramercy Pediatrics. Thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Hes.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you because I think there are so many questions that parents have specifically. But before we get to the issues with children, I do want to ask you about the other vaccine people are talking about right now, Novavax, entering phase 3 of the vaccine trial. How does this one differ from the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines?
Well, this is not an mRNA vaccine. It is a protein-based vaccine with an adjuvant. So it's just a different type of vaccine technology. And it might be better, let's say, for people who had the allergic reaction possibly to the polyethylene glycol in the Pfizer vaccine. Just remember, when you go to get a flu vaccine, there are about 10 to 12 brands at the pharmacy. You don't really know, and you don't usually ask which one you're getting. You just go get the flu vaccine, and it's going to be that way. It's going to turn out that way because we just need so many companies to produce a vaccine to reach the masses. So there'll probably be 5 or 6 in the end on the market, at least.
I know a lot of doctors said that they really liked the mRNA vaccine and that they were very confident about it. Should people be less confident about this one if it's protein-based?
No, this is a different, it's not a new technology. It's similar to the shingles vaccine.
Okay.
So it just stimulates the immune response in a different way.
Interesting. Okay. As we continue to wait for a COVID-19 vaccine to trickle down to children, what is the likelihood of seeing the coronavirus vaccine added to the list of required immunizations a child needs when they reach school age? I hear this question a lot from parents.
At this point, I don't see it being mandated because the coronavirus has not been as lethal in children. So I think if we get all the adults who want the vaccine vaccinated, all the elderly, all the teachers, I think that it will be optional. I personally will give my children the vaccine the minute it is available for them. But I don't, just the way vaccines and the anti-vaccine movement has really been so vocal, I think that they will give a really hard time at this point, and we don't even have the studies. So, I mean, we're going to need the studies that it's safe in children, and then we will have to see how this pandemic plays out. If the vaccine being given to adults and everybody who wants it is going to stem this tide, yeah, I don't think it will be mandated. But if we still have this pandemic going on, yes, I do think it will have to be mandated.
How old are your kids?
My kids are 14 and 17, and they are waiting with bated breath to get a vaccine. My son has asthma, and we want him vaccinated.
Absolutely. I think it's important for people to hear that you'd vaccinate your own children. And it kind of goes to the question, too, that once the vaccine becomes available to children, are there any conditions like your son's asthma that should be prioritized?
Well, they said any children with chronic illness can be prioritized, just like children with congenital heart disease. The kids who are not faring well with coronavirus now are the kids with genetic syndromes, congenital heart disease. I can't say that the kids with asthma have been doing worse. It's more of a theory.
Okay.
But, you know, it is a lung disease. So I think that in adults, we're seeing adults doing worse with asthma. So I would think that the children with asthma will be included.
There is a fear over the long-term side effects of these vaccines. Are those fears legitimate in your mind? And for families who are choosing not to vaccinate their children against COVID-19, what sort of risk do you think that poses to other kids?
We don't know of any long-term risks of these vaccines, period. I mean, they're very new, so you can't talk about that yet. But the vaccines have been safe. We've already vaccinated millions, as you just said earlier in your previous segment, and they've been extremely safe. So I just think now we have to follow the science, and more data is going to come out. But I think that parents, when it is available, should be reassured that we are doing this to keep our population healthy and our children safe, and that just like all other vaccines, we only give vaccines if we are in the business of saving lives. Right. So I always say to my patients, I would never give you anything that I think would hurt you, or I wouldn't give my own children. Let's put it that way.
It's very important, I think, for people to hear, even if it's over and over again, that sentiment.
Yes.
You know, another thing that I'm sure you can touch on here, we're looking at states that are starting to reissue these stricter lockdowns, including keeping students in remote learning. What sort of impact could this have on children's development, both socially and mentally, in your mind as a pediatrician?
Oh, this is my boiling point. These kids need to be back in school. I have patients, friends, kids who are depressed, lonely, isolated. They are not learning online, and anybody who is telling you that their children are learning great online. They might have an exceptional child, but for most of it, it's a bag of bull because these kids are extremely distracted. They have their phone in their hand. They have their laptop on. You know, it kind of sounds like that Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 wah. I mean, you've been in Zoom meetings. I've been in Zoom meetings.
Yes.
It is hard to get through like 3 Zoom meetings in a row. So if you're in school from 9 to 3 online and you think that these children are learning properly, you are being like utterly fooled. These children need to be with other children. They need to have teachers supervising them. Parents have to go to work. I can't. And you know, the irony is teachers don't want parents in the Zoom classroom, so they don't want to see a mom or a dad like checking behind to see if their kid is studying. But when we leave our children alone in the room, we don't know if our children are really logging in. I mean, if you have a small child, you're supervising them. But the older children, we don't know. It's just, they need to be in school.
I can hear the frustration, and I appreciate your candor. Dr. Dyan Hes, thank you so much.
Take care.